And hello everyone. Welcome to Texas REIAs. Today we are in Austin, Texas, my hometown, and we are talking about investing. I've got a room full of kind of shy people that I'm going to try and open up just a little bit as we go through the meeting today and talk about a little bit of our tribal knowledge and get to know you all and find out what some of your objectives are as real estate investors. Some of you guys may be just getting started. Some of you guys may have been doing this for a long time. Some of you guys may be looking for the first step. Some of you guys may be looking and trying to figure out how to scale your business. So no matter where you are, I have probably been there, done that. I've been investing for almost 2 decades. First started investing in 2003. Have not updated my resume since 2003. So that's been really a privilege for me to have been working this entire time in real estate, and it's been really wonderful. So I'll tell you that when I first got started, I walked into a real estate investor association, just like this one. In fact, it was part of this association. Instead of being at this Norris Conference Center, it was actually at a Mexican restaurant that was about, 6 blocks down the street. It was not a great Mexican restaurant, and we kind of set a very high standard here in Austin, Texas when it comes to Mexican food. So it is no longer in business, and I'll just translate that for you. But the price of admission for all of us to be there and share information together was that we had to buy a plate of Mexican food, but with that plate of Mexican food, we got all sorts of real estate knowledge poured all over the top. So as part of what we do here at Texas REIAs, we get together every month here in Austin. And we also meet in Houston and Dallas-Fort Worth, as well as San Antonio, because we invest all over the state of Texas, and we have associations all over the state of Texas. We have power teams all over the state of Texas, deals, funding, contacts, contracts, and contractors. But tonight we are in Austin, so our hometown, and this is where we started our investing when we first started back in 2003. And we continue this association because if it were not for this first association that I walked into, I would not have the wealth or the income or live in a great house like I do today. If it were not for that investor association opening up the kimono, if you will, letting me get a little bit behind the curtains to see what it took to be a successful real estate investor and really build a business that I am proud of and a business that I can use to support my family and feel and have a life of what I'll call stress-free abundance. And that's one of the reasons why we continue the effort here as part of the Real Estate Investor Association. We don't have to be here. We've got the income, we've got the wealth, we're kind of done, but we don't feel done. We have it on our hearts to continue as real estate investors, as champions of this Real Estate Investor Association, and to continue to give it back in the same way that this Investor Association first set us up for success. And plus, we have a lot of fun getting to do that along the way. So it's really been a pleasure of ours to help new investors as well. And every time I do a meeting, usually someone brings me a deal, a lead, an opportunity, sometimes money to invest in a deal, a lead, or an opportunity. So it's also a great marriage of those opportunities as well. So that's a little bit about the Investor Association, just as we're getting started. I'd like to know a little bit about you guys and what brought you here, what you're looking to learn, and how we can be of service. So, sir, you've been kind enough to sit in the front row. Would you just tell us why you're here, what you're looking to learn, how we can be of service? Trying to figure out real estate and how to get started. Okay. Fixing, flipping, wholesaling, buying, and holding. All right. So what have you done so far to work your business? Okay, looking at the real estate market, looking at prices, checking out areas, checking out neighborhoods. Anybody else doing the same thing? Okay. Anybody else instead maybe doing a little bit of marketing? Anybody doing any marketing yet? Okay. I'm from Austin. I'm a left-brainer. I understand what we do as left-brainers, and that is we get a lot of education usually before we do anything. Does anybody else in here feel like that's the boat that they are in? Anybody? So a lot of times with our left-brainers, They want to know everything before they do anything, which means sometimes they get in a learning loop that is hard to get out of, because once you feel like you've figured it all out, the market has changed, a law has changed, a contract has changed, a strategy has changed, and now you feel like, and I've talked to investors who have said, I got interested in this about 15 years ago, and then I got pulled in this direction, or I started to learn, but then I didn't move forward anymore, or I got started 5 years, or I've been looking into this for the last couple of years. How do you think that makes me feel? That depresses me. It should depress you too. I don't want that for anybody. Now, I want you to get educated, and I think that's an important and critical part of being a real estate investor. But I want you to go beyond just kind of studying the market. I'll give you the market update later on today, so leave that up to me. So that's something that we do every month as part of Texas REIAs. So every month we do a market update. Every week we do a tip of the week, and share with you some of the tribal knowledge that we built up over this last almost 2 decades. And let us do kind of the left brain stuff. We want you guys to get out there and do some of the marketing. In the slide set that I have playing behind me, I actually have several of those different marketing strategies that you can use as a real estate investor in order to be successful. But I do want you guys not just to be learning about what's happening in the market. I'll tell you in summary, the market's going up. And the market is going to continue to go up, I would say. And I typically don't like to forecast beyond a year, but definitely over the course of the next year, the market is going to be going up. Now, how do I classify that? One big way is the average price. So we're seeing average price increases in Austin in the 20 to 25% range year over year. Over the past couple of months in Austin specifically, we have not been seeing big jumps in the number of sales. So we're losing a little ground year over year in terms of the number of sales. But that's partially because last year we were locked up for about 4 or 5 months of the year. Even though real estate was essential, there were several months that went by where no one was buying any real estate. And now, obviously, people have been buying real estate. So and they went back to buy real estate in force. And as a result, we had some huge numbers in July, August, September, and last year that we are not seeing in these last couple of months this year. So, but the market is still going up. Don't let the fact that we are behind month over month in sales scare any of you. The market's not slowing down. It's just we had this huge jump at the end of last year that was a little bit of an anomaly, and that's what we compare to. Typically in real estate cycles, we compare to the prior months, but year to date here in Austin, sales are still up and prices are up and through the roof. So I don't know if I helped your thought process in any way, but as we go through the meeting tonight, we'll talk a lot about marketing and some of the things that you need to do beyond understanding what's happening in the marketplace. Cody, I can read your name tag. Tell me what brought you here, what you're looking to learn, and how we can help.
So I have my real estate license. I'm from New York originally. I moved here about 3 months ago. I'm an insurance contractor. I've always wanted to own rental properties.
Insurance contractor, like a public insurance adjuster, or?
Insurance contractor.
Okay.
So we specify in like gutters, new roofs, and hail, wind damage.
Okay.
But I've always been interested in real estate.
Okay.
I was like 16. I had a lot of adults in my life that did it, and they just seem to have the best life. So I've always wanted to, just never really broke into it.
Yeah, so it is a common thing where people will say that most of the millionaires have a lot or most of their investments in real estate. You know, if you haven't found it out already, you're probably not going to get to the level of income or wealth you want, maybe doing that W-2 job that some of you guys may be doing, but you can get there in real estate. Now, I feel like I'm a 20-year overnight success. And all that means is I've just been doing it consistently day after day, right? Week after week, year after year. It does take time. So if any of you guys are here for the get rich quick part of the presentation, I'm sorry we don't have that. So it does take a fair amount of working your tail off. Now there are, with real estate investing, it's very interesting. It can happen very quickly for some people, but it is a numbers game. So it can also take some time to get your business going, get your pipeline going. And that is assuming that you are doing the marketing that is necessary to be able to do that. So how long have you lived here? You said you moved here from New York. This is your second month on Friday. So you still haven't learned how we talk here. But you're from here originally, but you do have an accent for sure. Yeah. Okay. Be careful before we get a rope here. I'm just saying, and just don't try to make hot sauce. That's all we'll say. Okay. Welcome. So first off, and you are probably one of many people in this room who are new here. This is a great city to be in. It's funny. I was born in Houston, but my family moved to Austin in Central Texas when I was 3 years old. And I've only lived in Austin and Houston, and I've got friends who have lived all over the world. And some of my friends, in fact, one is actually here tonight. She's like, well, why haven't you lived in other cities and states and countries? And I'm like, well, because I was pretty much raised up in the motherland. It's like, don't you know, haven't you seen, like, everyone who comes here does not want to leave here? Like I kind of figured that out. So I want to stay here too. So it is definitely a great place to be. It's a great place to invest in. Now, I will say, for you being from New York, not only is the accent different, but so are the laws, so are the contracts, so are the customs. So you're at the right place. So as a part of the Real Estate Investor Association, we kind of talk about the contacts, the contracts, and the contractors that you need in order to be successful as a real estate investor. And you also said you are a licensed realtor, so you've only been here 2 months and you've already gotten your realtor's license. All right. So I'll just disclose to the rest of you guys, I am also a licensed realtor and broker, license number 0518223. I'm a realtor for myself. I'm not your realtor. Please don't sue me. Yes, good. Okay, wonderful, everybody. So I got my license in 2004. Now, anybody in here I'm thinking about getting my realtor's license? None of you. One of you is like this. Okay. So I'll just say this. Had I known what I know now, I probably would not have gotten my realtor's license. The only reason why I say that is because there's a fair amount of, education. There's a fair amount of red tape. There's a fair amount of disclosure. There's a fair amount of, and you haven't gotten here yet, but continuing education, and dues and fees, and, the continuing education usually takes about, as soon as you get started, probably about a week or two. Right. And I will tell you that in Austin, somebody could probably tell me a better number. I'm just going to put an estimate that there are probably about 20,000 realtors in the city of Austin. And there are roughly, and don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on this, although I do have a section on the Texas REIA's Facebook page that talks exactly about the number of realtors, as well as the number of closed listings that happened last year. So on average, I want to say that each realtor got about 3 listings. Is that enough to make a living? And the answer is no to that, right? So, so I want you to understand that as you're going through this consideration. And I also see a lot of realtors who will say, well, I want to learn more about real estate, or a lot of investors who will say, I want to learn more about real estate. So a lot of them will say, well, the next obvious choice in order to do that is to go to realtor school. So Cody, you're new. So I got my license in 2004, but I do my continuing education every 2 years. I can't read your name tag, ma'am. Rachel. So, and I'm going to guess. So they say, like, never ask a question you don't know the answer to, but I'm going to guess I probably know the answer to this, but you've been licensed for, or you've been here for 2 months. You've been licensed for how long?
I was licensed in New York.
You,
This is about my 3rd year.
this is your 3rd year. Okay. All right. So, can you tell Rachel what you learned about real estate investing in realtor school?
Absolutely
Oh, absolutely nothing. I'm sorry. Oh, what a shocker. Okay, don't ask a question you don't already know the answer to. I knew the answer, but sometimes people tell me kind of, okay. So the second question I'm going to ask Cody, also for your benefit, Rachel, anybody else here who was afraid to raise their hand when they were kind of thinking about becoming a realtor. And this question can go either way, but I'm just going to throw it out there just to see what happens. Cody, can you tell Rachel and everybody else here who might be thinking about becoming a realtor what you learned about real estate in realtor school? Not much. It was to me too. So it was to me too. So and I'll tell you that, you know, when my husband and I started to invest together, he came to me and said, Shanoa, we're going to become real estate investors. And he said, and I need you to be the realtor. And I had some very specific words for him. Two words. Sounds like, and I said blank blank. You go be the realtor. Yeah. And we drew straws, and I lost. Okay, so that's how that worked out. Now, at the time that we started investing in 2003, so when we were investigating the market. So that's what you said you were doing. Here's what we found was going on in the market. Was going on in the market. We had just gone through the dot-com boom and the dot-com bust. So when we first started marketing, what we found is we were talking to a lot of homeowners who were living in Round Rock, who were living in Goto, who were living in Georgetown. What was Dell doing? Was like a history. You guys didn't know you were going to come here for a history lesson tonight. Was doing in 2003, like firing about 100 people every hour. For those of you guys who were here, for those of you guys who remember this. So what was going on with the real estate prices all around Dell and Round Rock and Hutto and in Pflugerville? What was going on with those real estate prices? This is the interactive part. It's okay. We're in a safe place. We're not on Zoom. Okay. They were dropping and they were going into foreclosure. And then what happens when you have a couple of properties in a neighborhood where those properties go into foreclosure? What happens to the values of those other properties? They go down. So that meant that a lot of our early business as we were investing in real estate was what? Foreclosures and short sales, right? So I was listing a lot of those short sales for us in our business, and it was a numbers game for us. So I don't recommend that any of you guys get in the business of short sales unless that's what the market tells you the market needs right now. And in 2003, that's what the market needed because we'd overbuilt houses in those areas. They were all going into foreclosure, and we were making short sale offers on every single one. So what that looked like is, you know, worst case scenario, I would just get a listing commission on it. Best case scenario, we would get it at our investor price and we would be able to buy it, fix it, flip it, or buy it, hold it as a rental property, put it under contract, wholesale it. One of those was always an option to us. So where we were in the market at that point, it was a decent option, right? To have that realtor license, to be able to execute one of the main strategies that we were using because we had gone, you know, and I'll tell you, even in 2008, just to kind of give you an idea, we had gone from selling about 30,000 houses here in Central Texas in 2008 to selling about 18,000 houses in 2010. So that's a pretty big haircut, right? When you look at the total number of sales. It was not a dissimilar drop from going from 2000 to 2000 and, you know, 1, 2, and 3 here in Austin specifically because it was so affected. But at that point, it did make sense for us to have that as an option. In this market, are you seeing a lot of short sales? No. Why? Because property values are up 25%, so year over year. So even if you haven't made a payment for the last year, you probably still have what? Equity, right? And the bank says you got to not have equity or at least be fairly far behind and or little, no, or negative equity in order to do a short sale. So that option is not as big a part of our business. So, and a lot of people I see will say, well, I want to become a realtor because I want to get the knowledge. So Cody just confirmed that you're not going to get any investor knowledge out of realtor school, and you're not even going to get a whole lot of real estate knowledge out of realtor school. And then the market is oversaturated right now with realtors in the community. On average, each realtor maybe gets somewhere between 2 and 3 listings, right? Which is not enough to make a living. So a lot of investors will say, well, I want to save on I'm going to become a realtor because I want to save on my commissions. Anybody thinking that? Anybody thinking that? This is not Zoom. It's just, okay. Anybody thinking that? So some people think that. None of you guys, of course, but none of you guys. You guys are too smart. So I will tell you this: your leads, your deals are not on the MLS. They're not there. On average, here in Central Texas, houses are selling at 107% of their list price. So if a house is listed for $100,000, which I know there's no such animal here in the Austin area, just to give you an idea, if a house is listed for $100,000, it's selling for $107,000, right? And then, you could extrapolate that for the closer to, $600,000 houses. So if it's listed for 600, which is pretty close to what our average house price is, now you're looking at actually selling it for 642. So does that, even if you could buy a house on the MLS and save on commissions, you would be buying it at full price, which means you wouldn't make any money, even though you would be saving on commissions, right? Now, on the flip side of that, some people will say, well, I want to save on my commissions when I go to resell it. Anybody thinking that? I'm just kind of going through, like, I want to go and become a realtor, that logic, and I'm just going to kind of break down the logic. And then I'll also explain at the end of this why I still have my license, because some of you guys might be wondering that as well. So I will explain that. But I'll tell you, so licensed realtor and broker, I don't sell any of our houses. I hire someone else to sell those houses for us. Why do I do that? Because I have someone who's kind of in-house who gives me a great commission, right? And I know that I can do more with my time, which is my most precious asset, if I'm focusing on getting the next deal as opposed to saving a little bit of money on the commission. And the cool thing as an investor, whether you're an investor or a realtor or a homeowner, when you are selling one of your houses and you've hired somebody else to sell that property for you, who can you now be? Who do you now get to be? What role or what part do you now get to play? The seller. What's a great adjective to describe like what kind of seller I would be in that scenario? I'm going to be the crazy seller. and it is so much fun. Like I hired one of our realtors one time, and we got an offer on one of our properties, and I'm like, I'm not even gonna waste the paper to print this out. Tell them once they want to get serious, I might take a look at it, but right now I'm not even gonna bother with a counter offer. Just tell them go away. Don't even bother. And she's like, oh my gosh, Shanoa, I thought you were nice. You're like a really tough negotiator. And what am I doing? Let's see what that happens, right? You go throw that bomb and it, it worked. So what I find is when you are the listing agent on one of your properties, hey, let's split the difference. You're making so much money on it. It's like, no, too much contact. So even when you're a property manager, even when you have rental property, don't you want kind of that space in between your tenant and you, so you don't hear all the, oh, well, this person, this happened. And then what do you do? Okay, yes, let me see what I can do. No, getting to be the crazy seller is a lot of fun. And I know because I've talked to a lot of really crazy sellers, and I'm thinking that they're going behind and having a really nice laugh after, right? So that's another benefit to hiring someone else to kind of do that job for you. And of course, then you don't have to go through the continuing education, all that stuff. So again, let's circle back to, I think I've gotten most of the reasons why people become a realtor, but I'll give you why I am still licensed. And then I'll give you just a little bit more of logic when it comes to that. So I'm still licensed because I'm investing in Austin, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. So I'm part of all of the MLSs in all of those areas. I'm also helping other members as part of the Real Estate Investor Association who don't want to get their license but want to do deals. And also me having that that license helps me get and bring in more deals. So you kind of see that. And I've already been licensed for long enough. It's like, it's easy for me to keep it versus someone who's newly licensed. It's a little bit tougher, especially now. Like the broker requirements, much more difficult than when I was, when I was first licensed. Now, I want to just go back to realtor I want to save money, or, I want, typically I want to save money or not have to pay someone else commissions. So let's go through that logic real quick, because I want to break that down for you, because it's very important as well. I will say, for those of you guys who are not yet convinced that no, just hire one of the other mini realtors that are already licensed in your area. I will say, if you insist on becoming a realtor, no worries, I get it. But I will say this. After you get your realtor's license, because you want to save money, I would highly recommend, please write this down, that you go and get your electrician's license. You laugh. Why are you laughing? You want to save money, right? How much does it cost to rewire a house? Well, gosh, somewhere probably between $8,000 and $15,000. That's real money. Yes? Okay, so this is the logic. And then as soon as you're done with your electrician's license, why don't you go out and get your plumber's license? Well, because to redo the plumbing underneath the slab is $30,000 in some cases, especially if you're having to tunnel under, right? And all the pipes are messed up, which is very typical for here in Austin. So, and then after that, an HVAC tech. I mean, we just had to get an air conditioning system on our rental property we replaced, and we were quoted over $10,000. So this is the kind of logic that you fall into. So what do you find yourself doing? You find yourself doing everything except doing the number one thing that will make you the most amount of money for the amount of time that you're putting in, which is being a investor. Yeah. So you don't have to take my advice. I've only been doing this for 2 decades. But if you'd like to, I can promise it will serve you well. So something to think about as you go through and make some of these decisions. So I think I have really beat the realtor thing to death. Does anybody need me to beat it anymore? Or and then also, if you are a realtor in the room and you are licensed, would you mind raising your hand? Cody's licensed. Okay, a couple of you guys are licensed. Great. These guys are licensed, right? Would you like to work with an investor? Yes. Yes. Okay. Done? My work here is done? Maybe. Some of you. All right, guys. Shelby, Mark, what brings you here? What are you looking to learn? How can we be of service? Education. So you guys are both realtors right now. Is that right?
Yes, we work in construction and real estate.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So you want to expand beyond just building for other investors to build for yourselves. Is that what I'm hearing a little bit? Long-term holds. Residual income, passive income. So we own a lot of rental property here in Austin, and it has been such an incredible blessing to our balance sheet to have that property. We started investing in 2003. I mean, I've been here almost. My first investment property that I ever made, I made with my. Are you guys related? This is my dad. Yeah. So the first investment property that I ever did, I did with my mom. And it was in 1993. I was in college at UT, and so I'm actually a 4th generation real estate investor. My mom said when I went to college, I was renting, a place on West Campus, and my mom said, Shanoa, we are not a family of renters, we are a family of owners. So let's go and find your first investment property. So she helped me with that, and I'll kind of go through. We're about to stop this recording to do another recording, but she helped me with that. As a property that's still in our family trust today. So we bought a $100,000 property in Travis Heights, all right, that we still have today. So in that property, a builder has come in who's part of the Real Estate Investor Association, built the house next door, sold it for like $2 million, right? And ours is not. Yes, ours is not worth $2 million because we're just kind of limping this thing along, and we have been just limping this thing along for well, probably ever since, we bought it. I mean, when I lived there as a young woman in college, window units, but it was, all the value was in the land. So we have a lot of land that's kind of what we call a player to be named later. So as the prices go up and as the rents kind of flatten out, which is what happens here in Austin, as you know, I got it. Yeah. You're crying all the way to the bank. So that means like every November when we get the tax bills, it's a cry fest. But once we look at the values of that property and what it does to our balance sheet, we're popping the champagne and crying at the same time. So it's just something you get used to as you invest specifically here in Austin, because as the values go up like this, the rents kind of, plateau, and that's just part of it. So as the rents plateau, it's your job to generate other income as a real estate investor to be able to feed those rental properties while they're making you rich. So that's kind of the route that we've gone, and it's been really beautiful. And, a lot of people say, especially people who have been in Austin for a long time, and will say stuff like, well, I remember when such and such was only selling for such and such. It's like, no, just slap that remember when right out of your face, because the people who are coming here and buying your houses from California, they don't remember when. Right? And they just look at this and say, this is a great deal. Let's do it. So I don't want, it's easy, I think, for people who have been here for a long time to get that, oh, we should have, or no, the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago, second best time today, right? Same thing for real estate investing. So I'm so stoked you guys are here. So, and able to put in all that knowledge to you. So that's awesome. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you. All right. So I think we are ready to start the other part of our meeting. So if you guys see me checking